Side number 2 is going to be a simple replication of side number 1, except the finger position is now going to change from the knuckles facing up towards the ceiling to now the fingers facing down towards the floor. Although Alessandro is still working on the inside of his finger to create that same tension and control with the shape and length, it's important that he now switches his fingers over to be able to create the cutting angle with much more ease on his wrist. Now, some people do like to continue working with their fingertips facing towards the ceiling as they did on side number 1, and that's absolutely fine if you find it comfortable and you get a good result. But for the most part, as a right-hander, you would want to switch your hand to work like this to make it easier and more comfortable for you to create the shape. As Alessandro hits behind the ear on side number 2, this is going to be his final section that he's working on, and we can see that it should match up to the other side. So do take a second to check that balance and symmetry from side 1 to 2 before moving on into the side panel. The side panel is technically going to be zone number 3, and the opposite side will be zone number 4. Now, Alessandro's switching how he's cutting the hair, and he's going to be starting to work a inverse triangle shape where he's working shorter on the roundness of the head at the top and slightly longer towards the bottom of the head around the cheekbone area. This is so he can create more external softness and have more playfulness with the personalization as he gets through the haircut. Now that we've cut all of our foundation and wet shape through the sides and the back of the head, Alessandro is going to move on to drying this with a flat brush, just flat to the head shape, as soft and as smooth as possible. This will allow him to see the shape in its entirety before he moves on to the personalization of the nape area, and then finally moves on to the top zone to tie the haircut together. Alessandro is now moving in towards the nape area where he's going to be creating some shorter graduation, and he's going to be working with the technique scissor over comb. He's now switched to a comb which gives him more of a wider teeth, which will allow him to work a much cleaner and softer scissor over comb technique, which will give him a really refined finish and also more of a masculine feel through the back of the head, which is what the client requested at the start of the haircut. The reason why Alessandro is working scissor over comb rather than getting a pair of clippers is because he still wants to create quite a soft feel with the scissor over comb technique, and you can get much more of a feel of the hair when you're working in more of a manual way to create graduation, as it's much more of a personalized feel with the tools that you're working with. Specifically when you're working on bleached hair like this, when you go in with a clipper and go quite short, it's very easy to see where the clipper has been if it's not worked in the right way or it hasn't been softened out at all. Now the crown area has been connected in, Alessandro can focus on the top apex zone in towards the frontal zone. The way that he's doing this is by starting with a center profile guide right through the center of the head on the top and working a finger depth section through that zone from the back to the front. He's now going to be working a nice round fluid shape vertically from the back of the head all the way around forward in towards that front hairline area. This is so he can create a very soft and fluid finish on the fringe area, removing lots of weight through that front zone for him to be able to personalize and texturize. If you wanted this look to have a slightly longer fringe working through the frontal zone, you may consider working more of a squarish shape on the top of the head, giving you more room to personalize or more length to keep around the eyebrow area. But because we're going for quite a aggressive finish on the fringe and taking it quite short, a round shape is definitely the best option for this look right now. Now we can see the fringe is sitting at natural fall on the surface of the forehead and not being pushed or pulled or over directed in any way at all. This is important for Alessandro to now start carving out more of a graphic fringe and working that personalized feel, which is going to be a little bit more editorial than your normal salon friendly cut. Working a fringe like this is obviously very personal to not only the artist who's cutting, but also the client as well. So it's important that you know the client's limitations on how short you could go on the fringe and how textured they want it at the front. But we can clearly see that there's plenty of texture working through the front, where we can see the square horizontal shape and the round vertical shape really kicking in with the personalized areas through the rest of the haircut. We hope that you've enjoyed watching this short creative haircut, and we hope to see you on the next one.